Hello, we're here in Hamburg at BioEurope 2019, where pharmaceutical, biotech companies and other organizations within the ecosystem meet to discuss various issues, challenges, look for licensing opportunities, etc. I'm joined by Pekka Simula, who's the CEO of Herantis Pharma. You're a Finnish biotech that is, at this meeting, I guess, looking to look for deals, etc. You're in the neurology space, which is not as exciting as, say, for example, the immuno-oncology. When I say not as exciting, just from the point of view that when we look at all the activity, everybody seems to be in that space. What are the challenges in neurology at the moment?
Well, I'd first of all, of course, say that it's much more exciting because the brain is the most important organ we have. But the challenges, of course, for instance, in Parkinson's disease, which is our main focus at the moment, is that it's still not a perfectly well understood disease. And of course, the same applies to Alzheimer's and many others. So it's very difficult to understand the functions of the brain and the malfunctions of the brain. And in Parkinson's disease, it's already known that it's actually not just one disease. It's similar symptoms coming from a similar root cause, but each patient is very individual. So you'd really need to treat every patient individually.
So not really understanding too much of sort of like the underlying biology of the disease, and the fact that you have that such differences between patients must make it very, very difficult to develop.
Yes, in general that's true, and we are very happy, of course, about our approach because it's of course known that Parkinson's is caused by the death of dopaminergic neurons in our brains. The cause for that is not known, but our work is based on a neuroprotective factor CDNF, which seems to very potently protect the dopaminergic neurons and help them restore from neuronal stress and neuroinflammation. So that of course suggests that this approach could work broadly across Parkinson's disease patients, even though each patient is an individual.
So, okay, so it's a neuroprotectant. Do you sort of validated this in sort of animal models?
Correct, and we have very robust data in also a fairly large non-human primate, so aged rhesus monkey, MPTP lesion rhesus monkey, in which we see a significant restoration of the dopaminergic function and also a very strong, robust improvement in both gross motor, fine motor functions and even in non-motor functions, which was when the study was done, according to the experts, the first time in the world.
Right. So, and what's the status of that program at the moment?
We are currently in a phase 1/2 clinical study, so it's a first-in-human study, but it's already a randomized placebo-controlled study with 2 different doses of CDNF. We're now approaching the first readout of the study, so the first unblinding of the study is expected in first quarter next year. Right. Of course, we understand that it's a first-in-human study. From a regulatory viewpoint, it's a safety study, but at the same time, it's going to be very exciting if there are any signals of efficacy in these challenging late-stage Parkinson patients.
By efficacy, I mean, one of the things that obviously is related to Parkinson's is the sort of the tardive dyskinesia, etc. What actually will patients, do you anticipate, will patients actually get if your treatment works?
If we were able to see the same efficacy we have seen in non-human primates, then we'd be able to protect the patient's dopaminergic neurons and also to some extent rejuvenate them. So we'd be able to regain the phenotype of some of those dying dopaminergic neurons. So in a sense, that would kind of help the patients restore their natural dopamine levels to some extent, which would of course be expected to improve their motor symptoms as well as non-motor symptoms. And obviously we'd expect that to be very beneficial in the long term, slowing down or stopping disease progression.
Right. Now, you guys have just completed a financing. When talking to investors, was it the neurology that was attracting them, or was it your your efforts in the sort of gene therapy space with the lymphedema?
That's a very good question. There are actually investors who are excited about the Parkinson's space and obviously the opportunities beyond Parkinson's disease, maybe in other neurodegenerative diseases. There are also investors who see the lymphedema space as very exciting because we are virtually the only game in town there at the moment, and it's being understood now to be a huge unmet clinical need. But obviously there are also investors who say that, well, we'd rather just put our money on this or the other, we don't like the other. So I believe now we are working with investors who see enough potential in one to consider the other just kind of a bonus, or who are excited about both of them. But there really is great interest in both.
So two totally different technical approaches in two totally different sort of, therapeutic areas. How did that come about?
It was a merger some 5 years ago of two Finnish startup companies. And at that time there were great synergies also in the teams. So we were able to take those preclinical biological assets. We had similar needs for regulatory expertise, for CMC expertise in biologicals and so forth. So it has been a very good collaboration so far. But obviously anyone would guess that if things proceed favorably, maybe at some point in time it would make sense to consider divesting one or the other.
Yeah. So you're at this BioEurope meeting. What was the purpose?
It's really three purposes: meeting investigators, meeting investors, meeting Parkinson's possible partners, and meeting lymphedema possible partners. And mixed bag there really. And everyone's looking forward to our data in the Parkinson study in first quarter. So obviously that's kind of increasing the interest in that space.
Right, great. Okay, look, well, Pekka, thanks very much for stopping by.
Thank you.
Cheers. If you found this video useful, subscribe to the channel and get the opportunity to see other content that we've got coming that will look at industry trends and discussions with thought leaders.